This is a quick video on how to change a control arm on a Gen 2, that is 2004 to 2009 Toyota Prius. If you've taken a hard wrap on one of your tires and your wheels are now going every which way, you might want to consider changing your control arm. So, okay, first thing you're going to do is crack open your lug nuts. Crack open means just turn them just a little bit, quarter of an inch. Okay, we are currently on the driver's side, but now we're going to switch around to the passenger side because it is much more difficult, because there is one bolt that you are going to have a great deal of difficulty taking off. I don't know what Toyota was thinking, but who knows. Okay, so here we are. We have the car jacked up at the proper jacking place, the reinforced spot. I have a safety jack in case the hydraulics fail on that one. And to show what a coward I am, I have another non-hydraulic safety jack under the oil pan. Not a great place to jack from, but good for safety. Okay, so there are 3 attachment points for the control arm. Back at the back, there is a vertical bolt, and on top of it is a nut. They're both 19 millimeter. You will find they are difficult to get off. This stuff is torqued really tight. I think probably about 140 pounds maybe for the 19 millimeter, not sure. But okay, so you've gotten that off. We come around to the ball joint. Ball joint. Now there's 2 ways to take this off. You can remove the nut from up here, which you have to do in gradual stages, because you can only undo it so far before it starts hitting on the rubber and the hose clamp above it. Or simpler, you can undo these 3 bolts here. And actually it's 1 bolt and 2 nuts. And that will separate your control arm there. Okay, so these are smaller, by the way, about 100 foot-pounds, I would guess. Okay, now comes the interesting part. If you see that nut down there, right dead center, horizontal, rather it's a bolt, not a nut, horizontal bolt. It has a captive nut inside, so there's nothing to hold. But the kicker is that you can only unscrew it about 2 inches, whereupon it hits the oil pan. And I don't know what, I think Toyota wanted you to remove your engine or something crazy like that. But I was fortunate enough to find a channel by a guy named Johan. Check him out. And he had a great solution for this problem. If you remove 2 subframe bolts, one of them you can see down here towards the back. I'll bring it back past the rotor so you can get an idea where it is. This guy right here, remove that. You don't have to put a jack under it or anything. It'll stay up. And remove this one. Remove these 2 bolts. You can then pry the subframe down enough to get that bolt below the oil pan. I had a wooden wedge that I stuck in between the body and the subframe and just hammered it in. It took about an inch of space before the bolt was ready to come out under the oil pan. So you get that bolt out. You can now replace your control arm, put that bolt back in rather. Then you can bolt the subframe with those 2 bolts back up. You can put in that rear bolt, the first one you took off, with its nut on top. And you can attach those 3 bolts if that's how you took it, the control arm off of the attachment there. Okay, and so then you're ready to torque everything back. Torque the subframe bolts. They're both 19 millimeter, and they should go to about 140 pounds, I think, which for the rest of us is just good and tight. You're going to torque these 2 nuts and bolt on the ball joint here to about 100 pounds, I would guess. Now, that nasty bolt that we put on, you don't want to torque it unless the control arm is bearing the load of the car. In other words, you can either jack up the rotor at the bottom if you have a jack that will do that safely, and be sure not to get the brake backing plate when you're jacking. Or you can put on the tire and have the car sitting on all 4 wheels when you do it. But it's important not to torque that bolt tight when the axle is just hanging loose with no weight pushing up on it, because it will lead to premature wear. It's got to be torqued when it's at the same general place where it is when you're driving. So that's it. You torque all this stuff that you took off, torque it back up, put your wheel on. You probably will need to have some wheel alignment, and you should be good for many more years of happy Prius motoring. Good luck.